All right, let's dive right into today's explainer. We are looking at how to protect your basement from flooding, drawing on some really great expert insights from Smart Housing Systems, Inc. We're going to tackle the ultimate backup system showdown, battery versus water-powered sump pumps. Here is the roadmap for our explainer today. First, the sump pump dilemma. Second, contender 1, battery backups. Third, contender 2, water-powered pumps. Fourth, making the right choice. And finally, essential pump maintenance. Section 1, the sump pump dilemma. Okay, let's start with a question that honestly keeps so many homeowners up at night. What actually happens to your basement when the power fails during a heavy storm? You know the scenario. It's the ultimate double threat. The rain is just pouring down, putting immense pressure on your home's foundation, and then suddenly, boom, darkness. The power grid goes out. Here's the harsh reality. Primary sump pumps are essentially useless without electricity. They are your absolute first line of defense. But the moment that grid goes down, they just shut off. That leaves your basement completely unprotected right when you need it the most. It's like having a security system that turns off exactly when the burglar arrives. This immediate, huge vulnerability is exactly why having a reliable backup system isn't just some nice-to-have luxury. It is an absolute necessity. Section 2. Contender 1, battery backups. Meet our first heavyweight contender, the battery backup system. Think of this as a completely independent power station for your pit. It uses a dedicated battery paired up with a charger and an alarm. When the electrical grid fails and the float switch, that little sensor that detects rising water levels in your basin, gets triggered, this setup automatically switches over to run the pump. It's designed to give you a really fast, automatic response to keep the water at bay while your whole neighborhood is sitting in the dark. But we have to be realistic here. It's not a limitless magical force field. As the plumbing pros at Smart Housing Systems point out, in long outages, runtime may become a concern depending on battery size, pump wattage, and how much water the pump must move. So what does this all mean? It means a battery has a finite capacity. If you're facing a multi-day blackout combined with torrential rain, you are literally on a ticking clock. Your safety window depends exactly on how much juice is stored in that specific battery. So breaking down the pros and cons. The advantages are definitely clear. You get steady, controlled performance, a super fast response, and broad compatibility with most existing sump pump setups out there. The cons? Well, aside from that finite runtime we just talked about, batteries physically degrade over time. You just can't install it and forget it. You absolutely must have a regular testing schedule and a plan to actually replace the battery itself every few years. Section 3, Contender 2, water-powered pumps. Now, if you haven't heard of this next one, it's actually pretty fascinating. A water-powered or hydro-powered sump pump uses the pressure from your home's incoming municipal water supply to literally push the floodwater out through a discharge line. The absolute game changer here? It requires zero electricity. None. No battery chargers, no grid connection whatsoever. As long as the water is flowing into your house from the city, this pump can keep operating throughout the entire storm. But, of course, there's a catch, and it's a pretty big one. The pump's effectiveness drops dramatically if your municipal water pressure fails. If your area experiences system-wide water disruptions during a major weather emergency, or even if your home's standard supply pressure is just kind of weak to begin with, this pump simply won't have the muscle it needs to push that incoming floodwater up and out of your basement. Let's weigh this one out. On the plus side, you completely eliminate battery anxiety. No electricity is required, it offers simpler long-term operation, and you don't have a giant battery slowly dying in the corner of your basement. But the drawbacks are real. It strictly relies on stable municipal water pressure. Plus, the installation is a lot more complex, often requiring very specific check valves and precise plumbing configurations just to ensure you don't get dirty water flowing back into your clean drinking water supply. Section 4. Making the right choice. So let's put these two head-to-head. On one hand, the battery backup needs physical floor space for the battery unit and requires you to actively buy and replace that battery every few years. But it will save your basement even if your home has terrible water pressure. On the other hand, the water-powered option gives you zero electrical reliance, meaning essentially infinite runtime as long as conditions hold. But it demands incredibly stable municipal water pressure and a highly specific, sometimes tricky plumbing setup. Let's map this out for your specific home conditions. If your neighborhood has frequent power outages but your municipal water pressure is absolutely rock solid, a water-powered pump might just be the perfect fit for you. However, if you have marginal water pressure or, and this is key, If you rely on a private well that also dies when the power goes out, a battery backup is your clear winner. If you just want predictable, controlled pumping and you have the physical space for the setup, a battery backup is generally the strongest fit for most standard homes.
Section 5. Essential Pump Maintenance.
I really want to anchor our final thoughts with this quote directly from the source material. Backup systems are only effective if they're properly sized for your sump basin and local drainage conditions. This is exactly why you shouldn't just guess when buying a system. Consulting a licensed plumber or pump specialist to evaluate your specific basin, your check valve arrangement, and your available space is absolutely crucial. Because an undersized pump, it's going to be quickly overwhelmed, regardless of how it gets its power. And regardless of which system you choose to go with, the experts at Smart Housing Systems outline a few universal maintenance rules. First, always pair your backup with an alarm, either an audible one in the house or one that sends alerts remotely to your phone, so you actually know when your primary pump has failed. Second, keep your discharge lines totally clear of debris or winter ice. Third, periodically test the system manually, just to be sure it triggers. And fourth, if you went the water-powered route, routinely confirm that your peak water pressure hasn't dropped. Because getting it installed, that's literally just step one.
Which brings us to our final, critical question. Weather and power grids are entirely unpredictable. So when the next big storm hits, will your backup system actually kick in? Seriously, don't wait for the lights to flicker to find out. Take just a few minutes this week to evaluate your basement's defenses, test out that primary pump, and figure out your ultimate backup strategy. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, stay dry out there.